treasures beneath the Iron Seal. It began with a rumor whispered through crowded taverns and quiet courtrooms alike, a vault so secure, so secret, that even kings feared to ask what lay inside. Some claimed it held the wealth of nations. Others believed it concealed documents capable of toppling dynasties. Whatever the truth, the Iron Seal became a symbol of power hidden beneath stone and silence. To understand why this vault commanded such reverence, we must return to an age when uncertainty ruled every border. Wars shifted territories like sand. Alliances crumbled as quickly as they formed. In a world where promises were brittle, rulers sought something unshakable, an anchor strong enough to steady their realms. And so they turned to vaults, treasuries, and sealed chambers where wealth could be shielded from chaos. Yet the Iron Seal was different. It was not merely a place of storage. It was a fortress built to keep secrets as fiercely as it guarded gold. The first reveal begins with the vault's creation. Commissioned by a coalition of powerful houses, it was designed to operate outside any single kingdom's authority. Engineers worked in isolation. Architects signed oaths binding them to silence. Materials were transported under guard, their origins disguised. When the Iron Seal was completed, no blueprint remained. Only the vault itself, massive, austere, impenetrable, stood as witness to the ambition behind it. Then came the second beat. Rumors spread that the vault did more than protect wealth. It stabilized fragile alliances. States facing invasion placed reserves within its walls, believing that shared custodianship would discourage conflict. Merchant guilds stored bonds there, trusting that no ruler would dare tamper with assets so widely intertwined. The Iron Seal became an unlikely diplomatic tool, a silent mediator that kept tempers in check. Yet beneath its influence, uncertainty simmered. No one outside the coalition truly knew how much treasure lay inside or who held the keys. Some claimed the vault contained enough silver to prop up an entire kingdom. Others whispered of vanished fortunes, suggesting that the vault's secrecy allowed misappropriations to be disguised as strategic reserves. Every rumor strengthened the mystique. Every unanswered question expanded its power. And slowly, suspicion began to seep into the cracks of trust. Because in Europe, a treasure too well hidden often becomes a threat hiding in plain sight. The Iron Seal's influence grew far beyond what its creators intended. As more kingdoms stored wealth within its walls, the vault became a shadow institution, quiet, immovable, and strangely indispensable. But with dependence came doubt. Whispers circulated through courts and merchant halls: if the vault ever chose a side, it could decide the fate of Europe without drawing a sword or firing a shot. Such power, held in silence, unsettled even the strongest rulers. As the reveal deepened, small cracks of uncertainty emerged. A delegation from a Western kingdom requested an inventory of their reserves. The vault's guardians refused, citing confidentiality agreements signed by the coalition. A southern duchy attempted to retrieve a portion of its deposits for an emergency campaign, only to be told that withdrawals required unanimous approval from all participating states. The duchy protested; these were its own reserves, but the Iron Seal did not yield. Tension spilled into public view when merchants began questioning why official tallies of precious metal across Europe no longer aligned with the amount of wealth supposedly stored within the vault. Economic scholars noted discrepancies. Prices shifted in response, subtly but unmistakably. The Iron Seal had become a black box at the center of Europe's financial system, and the more opaque it grew, the more its shadow stretched across the continent. Inside the coalition, conflict took shape. Some houses insisted the vault's secrecy ensured stability. Others feared that the very silence designed to protect them might instead conceal dangerous truths. Debates erupted behind locked doors, each side convinced they were safeguarding the future. But as trust eroded, consensus became harder to reach. Every unresolved argument deepened the suspicion that someone, somewhere, knew more than they admitted. Meanwhile, the guardians of the vault continued to operate with absolute discipline. They denied every request for transparency, citing ancient accords that gave them unchallengeable authority. Their loyalty to the original mandate was unwavering, yet to outsiders, such rigidity looked less like integrity and more like concealment. Rumors swelled that the vault's content was not what it once had been, that decades of political maneuvering had quietly drained its treasures. The conflict sharpened when an unexpected discovery emerged. A shipment of bullion, registered as destined for the Iron Seal, never arrived. Records showed it had departed its origin. Escorts confirmed its movement across the first border. But somewhere along the route between two allied territories it vanished without a trace. No ransom. No claim. No explanation. The incident ignited speculation across Europe. Was it theft? Sabotage? Or something orchestrated from within? What had once been a symbol of shared security now became a source of rising alarm. Markets grew cautious. Diplomats grew wary. Councils convened in urgent secrecy. The Iron Seal, built to protect the continent from instability, had instead become the catalyst for a new and dangerous uncertainty. And as doubt deepened, Europe inched closer to the possibility that the vault's greatest threat was not what lay inside, but what might no longer be there at all. The disappearance of the bullion shook the continent more deeply than any armed conflict could. A vault built on the promise of absolute security had allowed a treasure to vanish without explanation. The shock spread through courts and trading halls alike. If a shipment bound for the Iron Seal could simply cease to exist, what else had slipped through the cracks unnoticed? Anxiety turned to suspicion, and suspicion to fear. The vault that once anchored Europe now threatened to unmoor it. The coalition convened an emergency session, each house demanding answers the others could not provide. Accusations filled the chamber, some subtle, others sharp enough to draw blood. One faction insisted the theft was an external act of aggression, designed to destabilize the continent. Another claimed the Guardians themselves were compromised, conspiring with unknown forces for profit or power. The Guardians, for their part, maintained an unwavering stance. The vault remained secure, the protocols unbroken, and any loss must have occurred before the bullion reached their gates. Their confidence only deepened the divide. Outside those meetings, the consequences multiplied. Merchants refused to trade using certificates tied to the vault. Guilds demanded independent verification of every asset supposedly held behind the Iron Seal's doors. Even common citizens murmured doubts in markets and taverns. What had once been a distant and mysterious institution now felt dangerously close to the fragility of their daily lives. Every purchase, every loan, every promise seemed suddenly balanced on uncertainty. Diplomats from rival states seized the moment. They traveled with calculated urgency, urging treaties that reduced reliance on the Iron Seal. Some suggested creating a new reserve system under broader oversight. Others whispered proposals to seize the vault outright, arguing that control should never rest in the hands of a secretive few. The coalition, already fractured, now faced a geopolitical storm amplified by the vault's darkening reputation. Inside the Iron Seal, tension thickened to suffocation. Guardians who had carried their duty with silent pride now walked with unease, feeling eyes on them everywhere they went. Some believed in the purity of their mission. Others wondered if they, too, had been kept in the dark by higher authorities. Questions circulated quietly: had the vault's reserves been tampered with over decades? Were the meticulous records, praised for their precision, concealing a truth too dangerous to confront? Doubt began to corrode even the institution's inner walls. The build-up reached a critical point when a defector, once a mid-ranking official within the coalition, released a sealed memorandum. The document suggested that the Iron Seal's inventories had not been publicly verified for an entire generation. Worse still, it claimed that several of the vault's largest depositors had attempted private audits and been denied access. Whether the memorandum was genuine or a calculated forgery mattered less than the reaction it sparked. Europe erupted in a frenzy of fear and outrage. Suddenly, every unanswered question sharpened into a demand. Every rumor took on the weight of truth. Every silence felt like an admission. The Iron Seal's greatest strength, its secrecy, had become its greatest vulnerability. And as midnight torches burned in city squares, and leaders argued in chambers thick with worry, the continent braced for a revelation that could either salvage the fragile balance or destroy it entirely. The revelation arrived with a force no vault door could contain. Pressured by collapsing markets, fracturing alliances, and a public on the edge of revolt, the coalition announced that the Iron Seal would finally be opened for a full independent audit. It was a decision born not of unity, but of desperation. For decades, the vault had stood untouched, surrounded by myth and fear. Now, the world would see what lay beneath its silence. At dawn, representatives from every major state gathered at the fortress. The air was heavy, not with ceremony, but with dread. As the massive iron doors groaned open, the sound echoed across the courtyard like a warning. Torchlight revealed corridors carved with uncompromising precision, chambers layered with stone and steel. Step by step, the auditors descended into the depths where Europe's most guarded secrets were said to rest. What they found was both astonishing and devastating. The vault was not empty, but it was far from full. Certain chambers brimmed with meticulously arranged treasure, as pristine as the day it had been stored. Others, however, had clearly been depleted. Reserves pledged by entire kingdoms had dwindled without record or explanation. Documents that should have detailed every transaction were missing, replaced with vague notations or sealed directives signed by officials long dead. The iron seal had not been breached from the outside. Its erosion had come slowly, silently, from within. The climax struck as auditors uncovered a hidden annex, a chamber not listed on any surviving inventory. Inside lay a collection of bonds, treaties, and financial instruments that revealed the truth. The vault had been used for political leverage as much as financial security. Wealth had been shifted, not stolen. Promises had been rewritten. Power had been consolidated in ways no public council had ever approved. The Iron Seal was not merely a vault, it was a weapon of influence. News of the discovery spread across Europe like wildfire. Crowds filled city squares. Some demanded restitution. Others called for dissolution of the coalition. A few insisted the vault should be destroyed entirely. The Guardians, once symbols of unwavering duty, found themselves accused of complicity, even treason. Their silence, once noble, had become a stain they could not wash away. Yet from this moment of crisis came a path forward. States agreed to dismantle the old structure of the Iron Seal, replacing it with a transparent reserve system governed by rotating oversight and mandatory public audits. The vault itself was repurposed as a historical monument, a reminder of the dangers of secrecy wrapped in the appearance of stability. Over time, confidence returned, not because of hidden treasures, but because the continent had chosen openness over illusion. And the lesson endures. Stability cannot be locked behind iron doors. Trust cannot survive in darkness. Power, when hidden, grows brittle. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future.